Hello and welcome back to Christianity Calling. So in today's video, I have another 3.1 for you. It's a good one, so stick around until we get to that in just 1 minute's time. But first, I wanted to talk about the road to 1K as usual. If you don't know, every time I get a new subscriber, I am sticking a star on the board. Now, since it's been less than 24 hours since I recorded my last video, we haven't yet got any more stars on the board. But if you would like to subscribe, or if you would like to watch a part of this video and then consider subscribing, please do so, as you will get your star on the board and you will help us approach the 1K goal. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed so far. And yeah, we will ever approach that goal. So that would be really cool. Also, a final point of business before we start. I have started to include more links in the description box down below. Charity links, some Bible site links for those who are new to Christianity. I think a couple of the things I use, like my Bible and my Bible tabs and stuff like that. And my book link will be down there once I've properly finished my book. It is going to be in print soon, but then I need to just do a quick check to see if it's come out in the print properly. But yeah, that'll be down there. But with all that being said, I know that was quite a lot to start. I am going to get on with today's video now, and it is going to be a good one. So make sure to stick around. So this is going to be how to naturally share your faith with others. And this is quite an interesting one. It's quite a different one, but it's quite a fun one. It's quite an important one as well, because it can be quite difficult, especially if we have friends or we meet people who are atheists or who are agnostic. It can be difficult to share our faith in a natural way, in a relaxed way with those people, not kind of, coming across too strong and just kind of like putting them off or anything like that, but just sharing it in a natural way. So I've got 3 different things here, 3 different ways we can utilize in this kind of sharing of our faith. So point number 1 is going to be speak in terms of your journey. So I've wrote down here, if you're sharing your faith with an atheist or an agnostic, they likely won't be able to relate to the strength of your faith or to religious concepts in their fullness. Things like God's grace and stuff like that, those types of concepts that we're, a movement of the Holy Spirit, all that sort of stuff. Things that we're very familiar with, things that we talk about all the time. If you're Christian like myself, if you've been Christian for a while or anything, they're things we talk about all the time. But the thing is, an atheist or an agnostic, they might not know how to relate to them. They might think that they're just completely unscientific things that have no relevance in the modern world. That obviously isn't the case. There are scientific ways in which you can define God's grace and stuff like that. But they won't be able to relate to it. So it will set up a bit of a distance there with you. Also, they won't be able to relate to the strength of your faith. They'll kind of think it's a bit weird and like not rational in some way, perhaps. So it's just going to create a bit more of a distance anyway, just naturally, an agnostic or an atheist compared to our viewpoint, let's say. So, of course, we need to find a natural way into sharing this faith with people of an atheistic or agnostic orientation, that will kind of bring us together, that will feel natural, that maybe they can relate to. And this, I think, comes into the realm of just sharing our journey, just in conversation with a cup of tea. Maybe it's someone you know relatively well, and they're happy to just have a discussion about this. So if we highlight our journey to faith, it will not only be a more natural conversation than just like sort of burdening them with loads of sort of religious concepts and ideas and all that sort of stuff and stuff about faith. It will not only be more natural, But the atheist or the agnostic you are speaking to will be able to relate to your journey. They'll be able to relate to your journey as an individual. They will be able to see, also importantly, they'll be able to see how and why it is you have a relationship to faith, and even a strong relationship to faith. So it might be actually, and this is a perfect thing for when you're discussing with agnostics or atheists, it might be that you were that at one point. You were agnostic, you were very much in the world, you were, you're just doing all the things of the way of the world, basically. Start with that in your conversation with them, because immediately they're going to identify with you in that period of your life, because that's where they're at then. They're agnostic, they're atheist, etc. They're in the world. They're going to relate to that start of your journey, and then take them through the process. Show them, highlight to them the ways in which God worked in your life, maybe through the Holy Spirit or through these little unusual, miraculous events, and just talk about them very candidly. Just talk about them emotionally as well, how it impacted you in the way of joy, happiness, intrigue, etc. Take them through that process. Obviously don't be like massively long-winded about it. We don't want them to get bored or anything like that. That's not necessarily going to be helpful, but take them through that process, and they will identify things. Things will go in, and they'll be intrigued, they'll be interested. This isn't like just them getting a sermon off someone, and just it being quite boring. They're actually relating to an individual journey, an individual who they know. Might be, they might be close friends with you or whatever it is. And they're going to be intrigued by it. They're going to be, oh, right, okay, that's interesting. This person who I know has gone from agnostic, atheist to Christianity. Maybe there's something in this. Maybe that I am actually intrigued about their journey. They've said that these things have happened in their life, and I have no reason to not believe them or anything. I do think there might be something in this. They might be saying something truthful here. So that way, that natural way of sharing your journey is very important, and it will give more relation between you. And again, as I've just wrote here at the end, like I said, that person will be able to identify with your journey in some way, because it will at least somewhat relate to their position in their life currently. So yeah, speaking in terms of your journey is very beneficial to naturally share our faith with others. Number 2 is having wisdom with timing. And I mean here in bringing up faith and Christianity in conversation. If we constantly bring up our faith in every other sentence when we are speaking to someone who doesn't have faith, then it's very likely that they will start to resent both us and Christianity, and they won't want to explore Christianity. Think about it from their perspective. They're very rational, they're very scientific, they're in that very materialistic worldview. And we're constantly talking to them every other sentence in conversation. Oh, God's grace and Holy Spirit, and wow, and it was great this week at church. It was really good because we were doing this and that and the other, and oh, Holy Communion, and whatever. You're talking about this all to them all the time, and all this, and they can't relate to it, as I've previously said. So, they're gonna just be alienated. And it, if you look at it from their perspective, in their shoes, then they're just gonna not want to talk about it anymore. They're gonna start to be like, I don't want to talk to you about it anymore. It's crazy, and they're gonna resent Christianity. They're going to be pushed away from it. It's very obvious. We all know this stuff, but we do have to be conscious of this and how it's affecting others in the way we speak about it, because we don't want to push people away. We want to bring people in with love, care, and knowledge and truth. But however, if we have wisdom, if we speak clearly and intentionally at ripe moments about our faith, then the individual is going to be intrigued rather than put off. So there can be many, many examples where we can do this. In fact, I have actually wrote further down as a kind of point relating to this, that there can be moments in conversation where we can intuit the movement or guidance of the Holy Spirit. And it can be that there are a certain moment in a conversation. It does take a bit of wisdom to discern. You have to be quite conscious, but a certain moment in conversation, it can be right to actually just include something about faith, about just a little comment or little quick sentence or something about faith. And actually, if you do that at that moment, that individual will be receptive to that, and it might start up a bit more of a conversation about it, or it might just move something within their mind. It might just allow some grace to be present there, some consideration of Christianity within them. So there can be that. There can be certain times in conversation that if we're attuned to the Spirit, it can be, and again, that takes wisdom. And then we also have to follow that up with a clear intentionality of what we're going to say in that moment. But yeah, that can actually be beneficial, and someone can be receptive to that in that moment. But more generally, if we're considering this speaking clearly and intentionally at the opportune moments with about our faith and with wisdom, it could be something as simple as, we're walking past a church and the other person simply just makes a comment about Christianity because we're walking past a church. They know that we're interested in Christianity in a big way. And that's an opportune moment to get involved in conversation, to just simply approach that, not going all in, not going like, crazy and piling everything about our faith on them or anything like that, because that's going to put them off again. But just noticing that they're bringing it up with pastor church, they're bringing something up about Christianity in conversation. Right, how can I approach this with joy? How can I approach this with love? How can I offer the best statement I can about Christianity in this moment, and actually offer them something that will provide them more grace, or will help them cooperate with the grace that's within them, essentially. So, that is simply just not talking too much about it, but also when you are talking about it, having joy, having emotion, having passion, so that they can see that you're passionate about it and that you believe in this and all the rest of it, and that you believe that this is the truth and all that. And just giving them a good, clear, strong answer to their question or to whatever it is they're talking about, and then leaving it at that. Not pushing it too much, not going into it like crazy, but just leaving it at that and allowing that to work in them, after that moment, allowing that to work in them. And maybe they'll bring something up again, and then you can talk about it again and make it a natural process for them. Don't burden them too much, as I say. Just keep it natural. Keep that wisdom within you. Keep that intentionality and that clarity within your words and your actions when you're around them and when you're considering your faith with them. So yeah, definitely having wisdom with timing in conversation, what you're talking about, all that sort of stuff, and how you're approaching that other person with your faith. Very, very important. And then number 3 is quite an obvious one. It's what everyone says. You'll hear, certainly I've heard a few older Christians talk about this. And this is actions. Number 3 is actions speak louder than words. Very, very true, very important. You might actually not even need to say anything to someone about your Christian faith. All you might need to say is when someone says, are you religious or anything like that, you literally simply say, oh, I'm Christian, because sometimes your actions do speak louder than words. So I've wrote down here that, as you've heard before, fully and properly living out our faith can often be the best way to communicate the beauty of it to others. And I've also wrote down here, if we are living well-ordered, happy, charitable lives that reflect our faith, those we meet will wonder where these attitudes come from. And once they find out it is directly from Christianity, i.e., living a righteous life, living a charitable life, living a happy life, joyous life, once they realize that comes directly from our relationship with Christianity, many of these individuals will look at Christian life in a new positive light. So if we're just living a charitable, righteous, happy, joyous life, they'll pick up on that at some point. Now, it might take a few months, a few years or something like that, but they'll start to really pick up on it. And then they'll be intrigued, and then they'll ask the question like, you seem like a very joyous, happy, very well-ordered person. What's that about? Do you have something in your life that makes you like that or something? And then you just say, well, I'm a Christian. I do this, I do that. My faith calls me to do these things and to be this way. And then that's going to click in them. Oh, interesting. So that's what Christianity does for people. That's cool. I didn't think about that. I didn't actually consider that it would really transform someone's life in that way and provide so much beauty and strength and all the rest of it, and also peace as well. And so they're going to see it in a new light. They might even look into it. They might even consider it more and go down that path. So sometimes actions really do speak louder than words. So yeah, as I wrote here, they might just be interested in exploring that life further for themselves. And of course, that is a positive. So with that being said, that is all I've got to say. Those were all the points I had, but I think I've been relatively comprehensive with that. I've spoken on a few different points that are very important, and they're certainly the key points to note with this kind of sharing of our faith naturally with others. And I do think that it can be very, very difficult. I didn't state there, but on one of the points I said that it can really be difficult and hard to do, to kind of communicate our faith naturally with someone, and kind of also it can be hard to know the correct moments to do that as well in conversation. And also it can be difficult not to be overzealous and just burden them with everything, about faith, and then that kind of put them off. We do have to have wisdom, we have to have intentionality, all of those things I've spoke about when we're communicating our faith with others. We need to be wise on how our conversation will be perceived by another person, whether what we're saying will be perceived in a positive way that they can be receptive to, or whether it's just going to kind of put them off and they're not going to want to explore it further. So yeah, we do have to have a very conscious perspective on how we're talking about this to others, but ultimately we can do it in a natural way, as I've pointed out in those points, and we can explore our faith with others in a way that will be beneficial to them and make them be more receptive to the Christian faith. So that being said, I will leave it there for this one, guys. Thank you very much for watching, as always. If you have any comments, questions or queries, please do drop them down below. And with that being said, I will see you in the next one, which hopefully I will plan and record in the next few days. So that being said, see you very soon, guys.